Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to talk about engaging multiple enemies in Fortnite. As we all know, fights in this game aren't always perfectly balanced. You'll often find that in one-on-one fights, another player wants to join the party after they hear the first few gunshots. Even in balanced 4-on-4 squad fights, you might find yourself cut off from your teammates, sandwiched between multiple enemies. Worst case scenario, you're playing squads and your team happens to be missing a few players as you engage a full team of 4. These are all very common scenarios that drastically change the direction of a fight, but I don't think that many players adjust their gameplay accordingly. So in this video, I'm going to talk about strategies for third and fourth party fights in solos, 4-on-4 sandwiches, and how to best play solo squads. I'm going to use some examples from my own matches where I found myself in non-standard fights. I'll try to explain my decisions in each case in order to show how altering my gameplay allowed me to succeed. In this example from a solo game, I show up to a fight as the fourth party. There's a lot of players down there, so I'm hesitant to dive straight in. But after I take away some shields, I can feel a little more comfortable joining the fight. It's always a good idea in multiple party fights to try to do as much damage from range as you can before you push in. As you can see in the kill feed, 2 players died at the same time, leaving a one-on-one fight between me and Daddy Two Hands there down on the low ground. I land a rifle shot, but I lose high ground. I'd call this a fair trade since I now know that he could have 100 health and some shield. I noticed that he didn't try to push high ground, and that encourages me to get a little closer and try to find an opening. But as I miss this shotgun shot, I hear another third party gliding down to join us. The instant you hear a third party coming in, you should try to distance yourself from your current fight. So I build up to high ground away from Daddy Two Hands so that I can deal with this new player. Let's watch that one more time for educational purposes.
Wow.
Luckily, I've still got full health and shield, so I can go straight back down to hunting this last player. At this moment, I see a pumpkin sticking through the wall. I'm a little confused at first, but I soon realize it's an RPG, so I build up and break line of sight. By replacing his floor, I bait out an RPG shot, and I'm pretty sure he damaged himself. That means he's got very low health, so now I can just chase him, find an opening, and finally end the fight. If you have a hand cannon, you should know that it can now destroy fully built wood structures instantly, and it can also take out brick or metal pieces that have been placed recently. In this next clip, I'm going to explain how I played a squad battle while separated from my teammates and surrounded by enemy players. I know my teammates are right behind me, so I don't try to fight the gingerbread man. I did some damage, so I block off my back, isolating the next guy who is clearly targeting me. I keep shooting this second player since they're not building and no one else is shooting me yet. After I get the knock, one player ramps up, clearly looking to avenge his teammate, but instead of taking that fight, I cover my head and I isolate this player shooting my teammates. After the knock, I need to build to isolate the Fable skin. I try to move backwards, drawing this player far away from my teammate. As I fall down this cliff accidentally, I can pick up some mats from this crawler since I'll probably need them to fight the last 2 players.
Is this 2 teams?
I realize here that my teammates have been in trouble this whole time. 2 of them are already dead, so I wondered if another team had joined the fight, but it was just the gingerbread man. So I rejoin my remaining teammate, finish the gingerbread man, then I can go back to fighting Little Red Riding Hood. Hopefully you've noticed that I didn't take any damage this whole fight. This happened because I never got tunnel vision. I kept moving, always shifting my attention to the next visible player, and I built around myself to isolate each new angle. This next clip shows how I played a 2-on-4 squad fight. After I land this sniper shot, I need to push in immediately. When your squad is down a couple players, you've got to make the most of every little advantage that you can find. I try to dodge shots coming from the roof as I glide in, I get the knock, and I quickly join my teammate on top of the building. My teammate goes down, but I get to take advantage of this distracted player. Now I find myself getting sprayed from mid-range with a lifeguard going for the close-range shotgun push. Instead of fighting the lifeguard, I build up to block her off. This gives me a few seconds to shoot the mid-range player from high ground. After the knock, I need to immediately keep building and surprise the lifeguard. I notice she's had her building plans out the whole time, so I go for the trap play, making sure to block her off with a ramp as I place the trap. Again, I won the fight because I kept moving, swapped targets efficiently, and I used building to isolate 1v1 engagements. Audio cues are incredibly important when you're trying to fight entire teams on your own. I only hear one set of footsteps on the first floor, so I know I can surprise this first player. I've got a little time to finish him before his teammates react, so I grab his loot and I run outside. With all the chaos, it'll be hard for the team to pinpoint my footsteps, so I run to the front door and start crouching to surprise the next player. I hear footsteps outside, so I block off the back door and move to the dining room while I reload. Notice here that I didn't shoot the first player. I crouched and snuck behind them to isolate the 1v1. I won this fight mostly because I kept moving. If I had stood still at any moment, those players would have surrounded me and I would have lost the fight. Sometimes squad fights are too easy. Sometimes you can land easy shots while your teammates distract your enemies. And while it's fun to play with friends, this can train bad habits. If you only play squads, you might notice that your team tends to be more successful when you sit back during team fights and shoot from a distance. You might think, wow, I'm a really great support player, when really you just don't understand the difference between correlation and causation. If you're getting the chance to shoot from a distance, it's usually because your teammates gave you that chance. They created an opening by drawing the attention of your opponents. So your teammates help you, but you don't really help your teammates from back there. And this game has so many features outside of the gunplay that there's no reason to play that support role anyway. You could be building and editing, destroying enemy structures, placing traps, distracting enemies, or reviving teammates. But instead you're back there tapping your AR, making yourself an easy target for a third party, and often being more harmful than helpful to your team. So go get some practice, do some playground build battles, play some solos, be the entry fragger in your squad games. Get in there, stick with your teammates, draw out some enemy fire, create openings, get in some good old-fashioned fights instead of just shooting distracted enemies from a distance. You'll die a lot more, but you'll have more fun, and you'll get the practice you need to become a more well-rounded player. Being well-rounded is vital for winning squad games as a solo player. Fights get extremely difficult when you're out in the open against a coordinated squad that has full health, good weapons, and lots of materials. You need to use every trick you know to fight all 4 players, and even then, it's usually not enough. But in this clip, I'll show how I played a fight to secure a 20 kill win. The most important part of these fights is the opener. You really need the element of surprise to start off strong and get an early knock. Even though I didn't get the knock here, I still turned the battle into a temporary 1-on-3 fight. I took him down to 20 health, so he's gotta go heal up. At this point, the whole team knows where I am, so it's time to start running and building up. As I build up, I find a very lucky opportunity to hit 2 players with a single RPG. That's 200 damage with 1 shot. I absolutely need to chase one of those players and land a solid pump shot for the first knock. I get it and I keep going. In these situations, you've gotta be quick and unpredictable while still moving with purpose. I hear footsteps behind me as I get the next knock, so I quickly cover my back and build up. This third player was so caught up in chasing me that he let me get an easy pump shot from high ground. Now I can relax, loot up, pop the slurp, and look for the last player. I got very lucky in this fight. In a lot of situations, you won't be able to surprise a team like that. More often than not, a full squad will chase you down, spamming through your builds with miniguns, grenade launchers, and SMGs. In those cases, there's really nothing you can do besides sit down and take the L like a champ. At this point, it's a 1-on-1 and I know he has low health, so I have some fun. I start using everything I know. I go for the edit shot, I try to trap him, I try to block him off so he takes storm damage. I try to quickly retake high ground, but in the end all it takes is a long-range pump shot to end the game. I hope this video gave you guys some ideas on how to clutch your team out of unfavorable fights. I understand that fighting multiple players requires a pretty firm grasp of the game's building and editing mechanics, so if that's something you're struggling with, I'd like to refer you to one of my previous videos where I talk about building. If you enjoy watching my gameplay, I encourage you to follow me on Twitch where you can talk to me in real time while I try to commentate my own gameplay. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be back next week with a short video on positioning and decision making. Straightforward stuff like when to push, when to back off, and how to use the play zone to your advantage.